Hello everyone, Aniki here and welcome back to another video. Today, as the title says, we'll be looking at culture and geography found in Pokemon Red and Blue. If you missed my video last time covering culture in Pokemon X and Y, we're going to be doing about the same thing, placing Kanto on a map and finding some culture behind it. So, hope you enjoy. Let's get going. So, where is Kanto? Well, for a long time, people have tried to place the mythical Pokemon region on a map. But what if I told you there's a place almost identical to Kanto? Well, except for the fire-breathing monsters, of course. Well, there is. Most Pokemon fans place Kanto's real-life equivalent somewhere around here on the real map of Japan. Now I could just stop and show you this, but we're going deeper and finding out how well Kanto really holds up to this region. So, like I just showed you a moment ago, this is the most popular version of the Kanto Japan equivalents as of now. How does it hold up? Surprisingly well, like scary well, like Esper's creepiness level well. Anyway, creepy analogies aside, what makes me say this? Well, let's start with the basics. First off, let's start with the name for this region, and get ready to be surprised because the name of this region in Japan is Kanto. That's right, Kanto is literally named exactly after the real region in Japan, the only difference being the absence of the diacritic or the accent mark that goes above the O. So, if that's not a dead giveaway already, then, I don't know what is. However, we're not going to stop there, so let's get a little deeper. Let's look into geography of this region. So, first, we'll look into Pallet Town, the Pokemon equivalent. It was a lot of trainers' first step into the Pokemon world, so I think it's fair to start here. Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon, has stated many times the inspiration for Pallet Town came from his hometown, which is Mashita City. Mashita City is a city in the western part of the metropolitan area of Tokyo. Although most of the city has since been paved over when construction began in the 1970s, the inspiration for Pallet came before this, when the town was full of lush greenery and perfect areas for catching bugs, a hobby that eventually inspired Satoshi Tajiri to make Pokemon. And geographically it lines up. As you can see, the city is right down here on the map of Japan, right around where Pallet is in Kanto. And to take a closer look at the map, we can both see Kanto and Kanto are pretty similar. So our first point for these regions being geographically similar comes from Pallet Town. But if something caught your eyes that's very similar about these two regions, it's probably the harbors. So let's head on over to Vermilion. Vermilion's real-life equivalent is the city of Yokohama, the capital city of the Kawagawan Prefecture, which is part of the greater Tokyo area. Now, prefectures are kind of like states, so when I mention those, kind of think of it being like its own separate state as we have here in the United States. Anyway, Yokohama was a small fishing village which was isolated for most of the 19th century. Pressure to participate in the world trade, however, started to open up port cities of Japan, and towards the late 19th and early 20th century, many ports grew from small fishing villages to huge trade centers, and in Yokohama's case, it grew to be the largest port city in Japan, and the second largest city in population only behind Tokyo. So how can we tell that Vermilion and Yokohama match up? Well, like stated before, they match up pretty similarly geographically, check 1, but we'll go a step further and look at the Pokemon found there. And since I haven't mentioned it yet, the bay Yokohama is found on is the Tokyo Bay. And what are some sea life that can be found there? Well, one is the Japanese seahorse, or lemur-tailed seahorse. And what similar Pokemon can be found in Vermilion? None other than Horsey, the seahorse Pokemon. Another is the Carosinax platex vista, a crab that can also be found in Tokyo Bay. And what Pokemon can be found in the games? None other than Krabby. So one check for relative location and one check for wildlife. I think it's safe to say these two places line up. Before I bore you too bad with geography though, let's move on to a Pokemon. Let's look at Snorlax. Snorlax is classified as the sleeping Pokemon, and we can assume he's based off a bear of some type. But is there a specific kind we can link him to? A matter of fact, there is, and that's the Asiatic black bear, or more commonly, the Asian black bear. These guys are found in many places across Asia, including Japan, and more specifically, Kanto. Yep, these guys are found in Japan's Kanto region, and like Snorlax, they have many similarities. First, that marking on its chest is the same color as Snorlax's, and although not covering all its belly, it might be where Snorlax's design came from. They are also similar to Snorlax in the fact that they are very lazy, earning themselves the nickname Sloth Bear. They're herbivores, meaning they mostly eat plants, but just like Snorlax, if disturbed by humans, they're not afraid to get up and fight back and protect what's theirs. They're also said to have very powerful upper bodies, which may be why Snorlax can learn almost every punching move. So, this ties these two together and links Kanto to Kanto once more. We'll go back to geography now. A question a lot of fans ask is, how the heck does Cinnabar Island get destroyed by a volcano from the time of 1st gen to 2nd when there's not even a volcano there in the first place? But before we get to that though, let's pin Cinnabar down on a real life map. Cinnabar is most likely based off the island Izu Oshima, a volcanic island in the Izu Islands. It lies about 100 kilometers south of Tokyo. Now that we have that out of the way, what about that volcano? Well, it turns out it's not as preposterous as it seems. The island of Izu Oshima is itself an active volcano, Mount Mihara, which has erupted many times, the last being 1990. So if Cinnabar is based off this, it makes sense that a volcano can erupt, but can it really appear in 3 years from underwater? Well, on tectonic plate boundaries, submarine volcanoes are common. These volcanoes emit magma many times, which form pillow lava, which eventually can form islands. Unfortunately, this process will take millions of years, not 3, so we'll just assume graphical limitations stop this from happening in the first generation games. To step away from the game canon for a moment though, which I won't do often, a volcano is seen in the anime, so maybe it's not that preposterous. But we won't rely on that alone. Just like Yokohama, we'll look to some Pokemon. The two fossil Pokemon of Generation 1, Kabuto and Ammonite, can be compared to this region. First, we'll start with Lord Helix, as our Twitch Plays Pokemon fans like to call him. Ammonite is based off Ammonites, spelled with an A, which is this. Although extinct, these guys appear in the Izu Islands, not as living creatures, but as fossils. When other animals ate these guys, they would only eat their insides and leave the shells to sink to the seafloor. These shells would sometimes become fossilized and bam, we have Lord Helix. Next, Kabuto is based off the horseshoe crab, or more specifically the Japanese horseshoe crab. Surprisingly, these guys aren't fossils at all, but living after 350 million years still. The only problem is, although found in Japan, it tends to be in the southern prefectures, not specifically Kanto. But this would explain the fossil laboratory being located on Cinnabar. So we have two ways to support this: site, which is geographic location, and animal life. And on another note, the islands are also famous for their birds, so maybe that justifies missing those bird type? Well, maybe. Now that we've proven Kanto and Kanto are pretty similar geographically, I think we'll move on to some more culturally based segments, as the title says. So let's start with Ninetales. Well, his name is pretty easy to decipher, Nine and Tails. Ninetales is not just based off a fox. Ninetales is based off the Kitsune. Kitsune is the Japanese word for fox, a popular subject in Japanese folklore. Stories depict these Kitsune as creatures with magical abilities that increase with their age and number of tails. They are clever and cunning, sometimes even able to take human form and convince men to marry them. Tailed foxes can easily relate to Ninetales, as they are often said to be able to breathe fire, check 1, and live extremely long lifespans, something that is referenced in almost every one of its Pokédex entries, check 2. The significance of the ninth tail, however, is because in these myths, the higher the number of tails, the more power and wisdom it will have. Kinda like the 9 tails from the anime Naruto. However, as they age, they are said to grow lighter and more ghost-like, and even turn silver, which can explain Ninetales' shiny color being silver. Overall, Ninetales is right on par with culture. Next, we'll go to Arcanine, Ninetales' counterpart. A lot of kids, myself included, were confused when Arcanine was shown to be a legendary Pokemon along with the bird trio in the second episode of the anime. Although not crazy enough to be considered a legendary on its own, this guy has some roots in Japanese legends. Arcanine is said to be based off the Shisa, a mythical creature and decoration of Okinawan mythology, said to be a mix between a lion, a tiger, or a dog. These guys usually appear in pairs of two, one with a closed mouth and the other with an open one. The closed mouth is said to ward off evil spirits, while the open one keeps good spirits in. These guys earn the name guardian dogs and have become pretty popular all over Japan, in openings to shops, homes, and whatever you want them to protect. So, although not legendary, he still is a legend and brings into reference culture. So good job, Arcanine, you're still a winner in our books. Speaking of pseudo-legendaries, how about a quick look at Dragonair? Dragonair is claimed to be based off a Japanese dragon, or Nyan no Ru. Although taking many forms, the Japanese dragons, like many dragons in East Asian folklore, are said to be water deities associated with rainfall and bodies of water. This could explain why Dratini is found in the water of the Safari Zone. Back to folklore though, it's very likely that the dragon is not based off the Japanese dragons, but the Myugi, a Korean dragon. The Myugi are said to be serpent-like creatures that live in caves or water. Why is Dragonair most likely based off these instead of the Japanese dragons? Well, Korean folklore goes that after the Myugi has lived 1,000 years, a jewel will fall from the sky, and if it catches it, it will become a full-fledged dragon, which could explain the jewel on Dragonair's neck, making this more likely cause of the origin. Anyway, that's all we have time for today, but if you have any suggestions for a region you'd like me to do next time, make sure to put them in the comment section below. And if I missed something in this video and you'd like to share, make sure to leave a comment also. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe for next time. See you all later.